Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Carrick. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Calgary, Alberta.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 75, celebrating our Diamond Jubilee here at the Calder Farmstead for January 14th, 2021.
2022.
That's the first time I've done that all year. We're just going to keep on trucking because it's 2022 and we're just going to move right along. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring a deep dive into aquaponics farming methods, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is CC Hockley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from StatsTrack and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And as always, we thank you all for tuning in.
And if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some of the matchups in the upcoming weekend in the AHL for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from. Scroll all the way to the bottom and click on episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, maybe go check that out. So you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes, and let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes trying to figure out what Kodak Black was up to in that Florida Panthers suite. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
Please do not call Toronto for video review. That's all I'm going to say. No.
I'm really tired of the NHL just having people score and then taking it back with video review.
Yes. Well, anyway, let's preview the weekend ahead of us. We're actually going to cover an Atlantic Division series. We're going to cover the Providence Bruins. So no cancellation on the series that we were intending to cover. So Providence, let's talk about their weekend. Friday, 7:05 p.m., they will be hosting the Hartford Wolfpack. Saturday, 7:05 p.m. at Springfield there in Massachusetts. And they've got a 3-3. So Sunday, 3:05 p.m., and they head back to Providence, Rhode Island to host the Bridgeport AHL team. I'm going to be diplomatic and call them that so Sean doesn't go, nope.
just embrace the Sound Tigers. Bridgeport already did. For years. It was fantastic.
Baby Isles. Anyway, Sean, let's talk about the team. Providence has been on it's been an odd year for Providence. Odd team this year. 8 of their 13 wins this season are by 3 or more goals, but they are 5-5 in games decided by 1 goal. Why do you think there's a bit of a disparity there between closer games as opposed to blowout games for the P Bruins?
Yeah, you don't usually see teams posting almost 75% of their wins by 3 or more goals. Although that makes me want to just, when the AHL betting comes in, it's going to be Providence Bruins puck line. But anyway, those 1-goal games tend to be the 2-1, 3-2 kind of variety. They're usually not 6-5 games. They're usually low scoring, ugly, low event, grinding, dump and chase style games. They're physical usually too. That's not a style that really suits itself to the talents of the Providence Bruins. That's not to say that they can't be physical or aren't tough, but more that a dump and chase low event games aren't really where the talents of the P Bruins roster lie. Guys like Stanika, Steon, Frodian, Lacko, Ashan, Asselin, Hughes, and Senishin aren't the grind along the board, cycle the puck, recover dump-ins, be physical on the forecheck kind of players. They're more of the fast finesse, speed and skill variety. And, I just named most of the top 9 of Providence. Granted, I don't think Oscar Steon is coming back anytime soon. Jack Ashan just called up, but he'll probably be back. But still, only Stephen Fogarty really has the style to play games like that and contribute meaningful offense. Yeah, they have big guys like Joona Koppanen and Curtis Hall, but those guys don't really produce much offense to begin with. But yeah, those grinding 1-goal, physically tight games aren't really how the Providence Bruins like to play. That's not really a style that suits them well. I think they're still capable of winning those games. I mean, they're 5-5. They're not 2-7. If they were 2-7, we'd be sounding the alarm bells. Although I would like to see them, win a couple more of these, because those games are pretty much what happens exclusively come playoff time, as that's not just the common style of playoff games. It's par for the course. So I do at least have some, concerns about their ability to, really take over games like that and having the physicality and to play tight check kind of 2-1 games, because those are very much the playoff style du jour. But that's a discussion for another day down the future when we're doing, Calder Cup previews and stuff like that. But for right now, I think it's just doesn't fit in their wheelhouse of styles, but that doesn't mean they can't find success doing it, but they're better off in kind of those free-flowing, more north-south kind of games.
Sean, you mentioned a number of individual Providence skaters. Another one I wanted to bring up is Aaron Ness. So he started the season off rather cold. He didn't find the score sheet in his first 11 games with the P Bruins, then went on a bit of a heater, scoring all 7 of his points on the season in his next 9 games. And now he's on a 5-game scoreless streak. So we are just ebbing and flowing in regards to scoring. At least Aaron Ness is ebbing and flowing. What is going on with Mr. Ness?
Well, he was on the Coyotes taxi squad basically the whole season last year and got into exactly 1 game, the last game of the season, and played 12 minutes and 50 seconds. Shockingly, he didn't re-sign with the Coyotes. I mean,
sounds like Jordan Gross last year too.
Yeah, like, oh wait, wow, the Coyotes are just going to have you hang out for the entire season and play 12 minutes and 50 seconds. Quick tangent here. Very dick move by the Coyotes to a player. They missed the playoffs by 9 points. That's not a small margin. And they were running Jordan Osterley and Jason Demers out there for 40-something games, but Aaron Ness not even for 13 minutes. That's just dumb. Like, that is purposefully being a dick to your player. Like, is Jason Demers a absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, better defenseman at the NHL level than Aaron Ness? Nope. Neither is Jordan Osterley. Neither are probably 2 or 3 more guys that they ran out there last year for the Coyotes, who, again, were bad. They should have played Aaron Ness more and probably let him walk for free for that exact reason. Back to the point, I'm willing to spot Aaron Ness those first 11 games as just a getting back up to playing speed because, well, he basically didn't play from February 2020 to October 2021. We saw rink rust this season from guys who had 19 days off over the holidays. Imagine what almost 600 will do, especially as a 31-year-old, as someone who is, in their 30s now. You don't get back up to that speed quite as easily as you did when you were a pup. The other big factor for what you can see in Aaron Ness's, kind of struggle to find his way is power play time. We think of Ness and that monster 55-point 18-19 season in Hershey where he had 50 assists. 29 of those 55 points he put up that year were on the power play. He ran the first unit power play for Hershey that season, but in seasons prior, he ran the second unit behind Connor Hobbs before that, and the second unit behind Christian Juice before that. Like, he was a power play quarterback for those Bears teams, even if he wasn't the guy. He was still getting time on the power play, chipping in points. They were a pretty solid percentage of the points that he put up. He ran the power play unit in all of his seasons in Bridgeport too. This season, the Bruins run 2 units of 4 forwards, 1D, which normally I'm all about that. That's what you should do. But they'll play guys like Ashan, Vankanainen, John Moore, and occasionally Brady Lyle over him on the power play. Now, Jack Ashan, I get, he's an offensive-minded defenseman. And is also someone that's maybe going to get some looks with the Boston Bruins. So he's someone they want to, get some playing time in, see they can't improve his game a little bit, especially as he's offensive minded. That's what he does best. I don't think he's ever going to be running a power play at the NHL level, but with COVID these days, we're just throwing warm bodies wherever we can. So who knows? I guess playing Vakanainen over him is trying to develop his offensive game, as he's still a former draft pick and not one that's really found his offensive game at the pro level. So I'm guessing he's getting power play time over Aaron Ness to try and spark that or develop that. But he's definitely not a better power play defenseman than Aaron Ness. John Moore is much more of a defensive-minded defenseman and doesn't really have the skill set for the power play. So that's kind of a head-scratcher. Brady Lyle at least has a hard shot and occasionally flashed some playmaking vision last season in the Groundhog Day division, but that does not seem to have carried over to this season, as I think he has 3 points in 20-something games. So he should probably not be getting power play time over Aaron Ness. But again, he's a lot younger than Ness, even though I don't really think he's on the radar for prospects in terms of how Boston sees it. In short, Ness should be the guy on their second unit, but I guess Vakanainen, for developmental reasons, is there. Ashawn is there because he's probably the better defenseman for that role at this time. The other two are kind of head scratchers, and he's buried behind them. If he got consistent power play time, though, I think it's reasonable to say he'd probably have 20% more points this season, and the Bruins' power play would probably be better than 19.6. But that's just a theory.
Sean, let's talk keys to the weekend. Like I mentioned, Providence, a 3-3. They host Hartford, then they go over to Springfield, then they come back to Providence to host Bridgeport. What's it going to take for them to get victories, 1, 2, or 3 wins this weekend?
Well, for first things first, the power play must click. Bridgeport is 14th in raw penalty kill, which is middle of the road. Hartford is 21st. Springfield is 29th in raw penalty kill. While Hartford doesn't take that many penalties to kind of cover the fact that they're terrible at killing them, Bridgeport and Springfield sure do. If Providence wants to do damage this weekend in this 3-3, they need to make them pay. They need to make them pay for the penalties that they take and get that power play going. That's going to be a huge part of whether they win or lose these games. Can they take advantage when they have what should be an on-paper advantage in special teams? The second big key to the weekend here is they're going to need to show determination and resolve. They're going to need to dig deep. Providence is 4-6 this season in games when they played the day before. Every team they play in this 3-3 will either have similar rest and travel conditions or better ones than the P Bruins. Hartford played at home Wednesday before traveling to Providence. Springfield plays Laval the night before. Bridgeport will have 2 days of rest. That's the schedule putting its thumb on the scale quite a bit. If Providence wants to be a contender this season, they're going to need to be better than 4-6 in these, back-to-backs or 3-3 kind of games. It's likely going to be ugly, but good teams find the mental toughness to push through fatigue and find wins over teams that they are on paper better than, which is the case in all 3 of these, I think. That's the P Bruins this weekend. They're going to be tired, especially in that Sunday game. But if they want to be somebody this season, these are the types of games they need to find ways to win. So they need to bear down and push through because they're going to be tired and it's going to suck. But if you want to be somebody, this is what you got to do.
All right. It's time for our picks. I'm kind of waffling back and forth on Friday because Jack Ashan got called up. So I am going to say Hartford, even though they are icing a lot of ECHL players at this point. But I'm going to say Hartford on Friday. I'm going to go with my gut. Providence on Saturday against Springfield, and then Bridgeport on Sunday.
All right. Hartford is still basically an ECHL team. Springfield has gotten a lot of reinforcements, and Bridgeport has been better recently and has that big rest advantage. I'm going to take Providence over Hartford, but I'm going to take Springfield and Bridgeport. I think Springfield just getting reinforcements is going to be a big thing for them too. They've looked a little sharper recently, especially getting guys back. Sam Annis has looked a lot better recently and is starting to turn things on. And Bridgeport, even though I don't think Bridgeport is a better team by any stretch of the imagination, 2 days rest against a team that's on its third game in 3 is quite a factor, and one that Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to program into the model yet. Maybe next season, or maybe we will get a mid-season upgrade if I can figure it out. But the percentages that you're about to hear from the model do not reflect the difference in rest between Bridgeport and Providence this weekend.
Well, with that said, let's take a look at what the model says. Providence, 55.3% favorite over the Hartford Wolfpack. Providence, a 50.8% favorite, just a little less than a percentage over the Springfield Thunderbirds. And Providence, again, favorite, 54.5% over the Bridgeport Sound Tigers.
Yeah, like I said, that rest factor, I think, is going to chip away at that and make it a little bit closer to a coin flip. But that is a part of the model that doesn't exist yet, maybe in the future. But we are going to take a break here. After that break, we will get to Rochester and Belleville. If you're just here for Providence, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. We will be back Tuesday to talk about these teams, especially we'll be back on Tuesday to talk about Providence in these games. So you probably want to hear that recap, Tuesday morning. Also check us out on social media where we do the memes. Links to all of that, as well as our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills, run some ads. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
All right. We have 4 weekend previews to get through. We've already done one. And the second one is going to be in the North Division. So we're going to talk about Rochester and Belleville. Friday, 7:05 p.m. and Saturday, 5:05 p.m. Both games at Rochester, New York. Sean, let's talk about the Amerks real quick. Rochester's power play took off in late November and has been at the top of the AHL since November 29th. Wow, that's a long time to be king in the power play realm. However, it is clicking at a 15.4% rate the last 4 games against fully staffed AHL teams. We're not going to count Wednesday's game against Utica because, let's be honest here. Honestly, though, what's going on with the Amerks potent power play?
The answer is very simple. It even has a name. It's Peyton Krebs. The Amerks power play became this huge super weapon in late November when Peyton Krebs went on a tear of his own. He scored 11 points in 8 games, 5 of which were power play points. Fun fact, Peyton Krebs got called up to the Sabres on December 28th, and he's played a couple of games for the Sabres, and as far as I know, is currently in COVID protocol. They played 6 games against teams icing 18 skaters of AHL-ish caliber without him, and you noted their power play over the last 4 games as being, not great. JJ Peterka also was hurt, and they played Saturday and Wednesday without him, which furthers their power play questions. JJ Peterka, very, very good. And now the Amerks are replacing 2 of their best power play guys with guys like Linus Weissbach and Ryan Scarfo, who are notably not as talented. Unsurprisingly, that also means you can't scheme the power play the same way for Weissbach and Scarfo like you would for Peterka and Krebs and expect similar results. You have to shift kind of what you're doing at least a little bit. And I know that Seth Appert isn't a big believer in working too far outside of the framework that they have in place, which part of me understands and agrees with, and part of me thinks you should be more flexible than that. So it's a little column A, column B, but you can't just put Scarfo and Weissbach and guys like that out there and expect identical results to win. It's a Quinn, Mersch, Peterka, Krebs, Brandon Davidson power play unit. Like that ain't gonna fly. And that's definitely one of the bigger reasons. When you lose those top guys from your lineup, the first thing that takes the hit is power play.
You mentioned the Quinns, the Peterkas, the Krebs, and let's not forget to mention another guy by the name of Mikhail Mersch. Of course, Mersch has been on another level this season. He's second in the AHL in points right now. Mersch has been a solid player in the past, but he's never finished a season as well on a point per game clip. And as a point per game player, quite honestly, Sean, he hasn't even been close since 2015-2016 season. What has been the difference this season to kind of put him at that point per game clip?
Well, top to bottom, this probably isn't the most complete team Michael Mersch has ever played for. He's played for teams that were a little bit better defensively, had some better goaltending. but it's probably the team that's chocked full of the most just straight raw talent. I mean, Quinn, Peterka, and Krebs are all more or less locks for lengthy NHL careers in some fashion. I think Oskari Laaksonen and Samuelsson probably carve out some semblance of an NHL career as well. Brennan Davidson's already played 183 NHL games as it is. Ethan Prow's been a top AHL defenseman for about 2 seasons now. Arto Ruotsalainen has NHL potential. A lot of other guys too, have raw skills. Matej Pekash comes to mind. Even Linus Weissbach he's not Quinn or Krebs, but he still has raw talents. It's more putting it together that's been their problem.
Sure.
But all that talent around him has allowed Mersch to do what he does best. Be physical, win board battles, find soft ice in high danger areas, and most importantly, be the best garbage man in the AHL. Mersch isn't a great skater and has average puck skills that are more centered around control and protection than flashy dekes and one-on-one capability, which is why the talent around him enables him to be the absolute best version of himself in ways that he hasn't been able to do at other stops in his career. Moving the puck in transition, that's someone else's job. Getting zone entries, someone else's job. Finding him at the net front is someone else's job. Mersch can go dig the puck out of the corner, pass to Quinn or Peterka or Krebs or someone else, and then trust them to do their job and activate Michael Mersch time. They'll pull defenders to them and away from the inner slot at the net front, leaving Mersch more time and space in a dangerous area. Then it's Michael Mersch time. They'll get to home plate and fire a dangerous shot that maybe the goalie saves, but can't control the rebound. Michael Mersch time. They'll see him at the net front with good body positioning and his stick ready for a tip. Michael Mersch time. All of that talent around him allows him to put himself in the best spots where his skill set is able to be maximized. That's why you're seeing a lot of Michael Mersch do things and score goals that he hasn't in other seasons, because he's basically free to do exactly what he wants and what he's good at and let other people take care of the parts of his game that don't really fit inside his skill set.
Looking at my imaginary watch here, it seems to be Michael Mersch time. No. But hey, let's go on to Belleville. Let's talk about the B-Sens. Belleville's power play seems to have gotten out of the funk that they were in. At Christmas, they were 26th in the league in raw power play percentage at 16.1%. They have gone 5 for 15 in their last 3 games. That's got to be a positive sign, right, Sean? 33.33 repeating percentage. What have you seen from Belleville's power play that has them at that level?
Not as much in the positive sign department as you'd think.
Okay.
First of all 5 of those came against Springfield, who, as we just detailed, is one of the worst penalty killing teams in the league. So grain of salt with your tequila right there. Second, 2 of those 5 power play goals came 5-on-3 that Belleville had for an extended period of time because of 2 interference calls and a bench minor that Springfield simultaneously had put on them for one of the dumbest sequences I have seen in quite some time. Chris Wilkie's 5-on-4 power play tally was off a rebound off a point shot that basically went right to his stick at the faceoff dot. Yeah, he still scored it, but in terms of, is that a repeatable thing we can depend on in the future? No, it is not. 5-on-3s for a full 4 minutes, not something you can rely on going forward into the future. So I also don't like Belleville's power play structure. It reminds me a lot of Hershey's power play from last season. And if you're a regular listener of this show and heard me rant ad nauseum about Hershey's power play last season, you're probably familiar with some of the concepts that I'm about to talk about. It's a power play that mostly that's mostly based on getting shots from the half wall and the points. Basically no one-timers, as guys are almost always on their strong side, including one of the best, one-time power shooters in Igor Sokolov, aka Sharkolov, or as we call him, the T10 tank. But it's a lot of working the puck along the outside and getting guys at the faceoff dots skating downhill for shots. This would be a more effective strategy if they actually used those guys at the faceoff dots to threaten passes to the bumper or have one-timer. So it's more than just, I know when you're curling into the faceoff dot, I already know you're shooting. I just get into the shooting lane because I know that that's all you're going to try and do. Whereas if you have some diversity, some deception, some layers to those plays, you can pull guys you can open up passing lanes to the bumper and get one-timers from in close. You can fake passes to the bumper. You can add layers that will increase your scoring chances. But they don't really do that. They don't look across Royal Road that often. They don't look for one-timers. And they basically don't use the bumper spot at all, which is bizarre. For those unfamiliar with the bumper terminology, that's the guy who's right around the hash marks on the power play. So there's a net front guy who plays basically at the top of the crease, and then there's a guy about 5 to 10 feet away from him in the slot area. That slot guy is called the bumper, and that's where a lot of teams generate good scoring chances from on the power play. We talked about Chicago doing it last week. Utica does it well. We've talked about them using I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Nate Schnarr. Nate Schnarr is that spot on the Utica power play, more or less. He's been really good in the bumper spot. Has been scored a couple of goals from Chase DeLeo, doing exactly what we just talked about. Looking downhill, looking like he's going to shoot, putting a no-look pass right to Nate Schnarr's wheelhouse. He one-times it for a goal. Iowa did it for years. Jerry Mayhew was the Iowa bumper for a long period of time in that 1920 season. They were just racking up power play points. Rochester, as you'll get to see, live in person, does the exact same thing too. They utilize that bumper spot when they are fully staffed with Peterka and Krebs and, Quinn and everyone. But it's very bizarre to see them just basically ignore the bumper spot completely and really not make plays towards it or towards the inside, home plate area. It's a lot of point shots, a lot of outside wall shots, and not a lot of options otherwise. And I don't think that's a very effective way to generate offense in the power play in the year of our Lord 2022.
Bumpers, not highly touted in the game of bowling, but hey, hockey, different story, different terminology. So anyway, let's talk about former Colorado Eagles alumni, Andrew Agazino. So Agazino, just 4 assists on the season. He is on pace for his lowest assist total in his AHL career. What in the world is going on with his game, and why isn't he ending up in the helper part of the score sheet as much as he's been used to in his fairly lengthy AHL career?
I also just want to point out before we start here, if we're going to name all of the alumni places that Andrew Agazino is a member of from the AHL, this podcast is going to grow exponentially in runtime.
Hey.
To answer your question, though, of what's going on, I think some of it has to do with his line mates. He's just started getting more ice time with Jake Lucchini in the last 3 or 4 games. Previously, a lot of time with Parker Kelly and Logan Shaw, and a line that really has not clicked. I mean, the Parker Kelly not scoring parts are not that surprising because Parker Kelly is not that good as a scoring threat in the AHL. Logan Shaw has been in the past, but for whatever reason, him and Agazino just don't click. I also think that the rest of it has to do with the style of play from Belleville. Belleville is primarily a dump and chase or chip and chase kind of a team. They don't generate a lot of rush chances. They don't play a lot of north-south counterattack hockey. They don't look for controlled zone entries that often. And that's been something that Troy Mann has more or less played his entire career. And it's what the Ottawa Senators more or less play. They play a lot of dump and chase. They play a lot of glass and out. They are not a controlled zone exit, controlled zone entry, possession kind of team in that sense. So a lot of it then becomes, pressuring defensemen, retrieving the dump in, recovering the puck, working the cycle down low, working to the point for shots. And that doesn't really mesh with how Agazino usually scores. He's a guy who scored 5-on-5 primarily on rush chances. A fair number of his assists are rebound assists from shots on the rush or from him trying to make a shrewd play across the crease on a rush chance on a 2-on-1 or a 2-on-2. Seeing as that's not Belleville's game plan for offense, you've seen less of Agazino making those assists, which were a big part of his scoring. And that's not to say he can't make plays off the cycle, but again, it's not where he's done a lot of the scoring in his career. And as we've talked about, repeatedly over the course of the show, but emphasized in our episode 0, rush chances are huge in terms of generating scoring chances. They're a big generator of offense, and Belleville chooses to kind of eschew that and, go for more of a dump and chase route, which again is what Ottawa plays. So that does make some sense. The other place Agazino scores a lot from is power play. He's capable of getting tips in front, but he's more of someone who sneaks into the area for a tip as opposed to staying and battling it out. He's not much of a grinder or a battler in that sense. He more likes to kind of sneak in and out and do his business. But he's that kind of goes for the rest of his power play points too. They're primarily him finding soft ice and getting set up by, teammates who can find him in those areas. He's good at the bumper spot or in the left half wall. Belleville's power play has him in the bumper for most of their power play time. And we just talked about, they basically don't use the bumper spots like most other power plays do. So those are the avenues that Agazino's points typically travel. And those aren't the places he gets to go as often with Belleville. The team in general is also shooting a little bit below league average. They're around, I want to say 9.2, and the league average is around 10. So that's never going to help any player's assist totals when your team is in general just not shooting up to league average. So all of that's to say, there are a lot of reasons that Agazino's kind of been cut short on his assist totals this year. But I don't necessarily think it's because he's not as good a player as he used to. I just think that he doesn't mesh as well with Belleville's system, and the team as well is not shooting at a great place.
For those keeping track at home, Peoria, Lake Erie, San Antonio, Chicago, Colorado Eagles, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, San Diego, Belleville. That's all the teams that Andrew Agazino has played for in his
tracksuit connoisseur.
Tracksuit connoisseur, very lengthy career at 31 years of age. Sean, I don't know where my keys are, but I think you have some for the weekend for these two teams, eh?
Oh, yeah. For Rochester, you got to be more responsible on your own end. You know what the goaltending is behind you. The best thing you can do is to make sure that they have the easiest workload possible. Simple things like clean zone exits, safe, easy passes on breakouts. Go glassing out if you have to. Go glassing out if maybe you don't have to. Be responsible defensively. Look over your shoulder. Know where all 5 Senators are at all times. Little details like that. Make sure your stick is in the right passing lane. Like, this is how you don't, end up having a 2-man down, basically ECHL Utica squad come back to win when you scored 7 goals. Like, you got to take care of business in your own end, because I think all of us at this point know what Matt Robson is. For Belleville, for the love of God, stay out of the penalty box. I know Krebs isn't likely to be back this weekend. Peterka may or may not be. We don't get injury reports in the AHL, so who knows what's wrong with him. You should still stay far, far away from the Amerks power play. It's still capable of burning you should you try and play with that fire. Also, Belleville, key for them is a Han Solo mentality. Rochester seems likely to have to play Matt Robson at some capacity this weekend. He is currently rocking an .818 save percentage. That's 116th out of 121 goalies. I believe I wrote that before last night's game, so that may not be accurate anymore, although he did give up 6 goals, or Rochester did. So he's still, I think my point stands, not very good. Belleville, shoot the puck from anywhere and just kind of see what happens. Shoot first mentality. Do what Han Solo did.
Well, it's time to make our picks. And man, you mentioned Matt Robson. Man, Buffalo is having a hell of a time keeping their goaltending tree standing tall. I feel like it's like been struck by lightning. There's branches falling off. Goaltenders are going, left and right, either COVID-19 protocol or injured reserve or day-to-day. It's a mess with the Buffalo goaltending tree. So with all that said, I am predicting a B-Sens sweep on the weekend.
Yeah, I feel a split here. I don't believe Rochester has enough goaltending to get through 2 games without failure, but I also believe that they have too much firepower to be held down by Belleville, who has they don't have Matt Sogard anymore. They're rocking different goaltending who I can't think of off the top of my head.
Not Matt Murray anymore, correct?
No, not Matt Murray anymore either. So definitely a bit of a downgrade in the goaltending department, which has powered them through some rough games. So I'm going to say Belleville Friday, Rochester Saturday, which I think is I think it's fair to see a split here. I just don't believe in either team enough to give them both wins.
Mandalese and Gustafson. Does that sound right?
Gustafson. Yes, that's who I was thinking of that I couldn't think of. Son of Gus.
Son of Gus.
Like both the Mandalesian and Son of Gus are like, they're good AHL goaltenders, but Matt Sogard I thought was a better goaltender, a more capable. Matt Murray is obviously used to be a starting NHL goaltender, but that's still better than, most AHL guys. So bit of a downgrade that got them through some rough games. I believe less in them. So yeah, I'm taking the splits, Belleville Friday, Rochester Saturday. The model has Belleville as a 51.9% favorite in both games. Mostly because it knows Matt Robson is in net, and it knows that Peterka and Krebs are not in Rochester. So that's a surprising result from the model, but I double checked it when I updated it this afternoon. That is correct.
Yeah, maybe a split was the way to go. We shall see. I guess I'm a little more confident in my sweep predictions after Colorado took care of business against Tucson last weekend, and Chicago almost did the 3-3 sweep if it wasn't for an 8-0 shellacking against Rockford. But I digress. Let's move on from that. Let's head into another respite, another break here. After this break, we will get to Manitoba and Grand Rapids over in the AHL Central Division. If you're just here for Belleville and Rochester, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so that you can get episodes in a very timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found at our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We are going to run some advertisements. Yes, indubitably. Stick around, chap. We'll be right back. All right, and we have come on back from the other side of covering two series in the Eastern Conference, and now we are going to be talking about the Central Division and bump on over to the Western Conference. Manitoba and Grand Rapids, the Moose and the Griffins, and of course every night is Meese night here at the Calder Farmstead. But this weekend series will not be happening in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. It will be in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Friday and Saturday nights, 7 p.m. at, oh goodness, I forget the name of their arena, but let's
Van Andel Arena.
Van Andel Arena. I knew it was Van something, but the Van Halen Arena? No, Van Andel, sorry. Anyway, team breakdown for the Griffs. Grand Rapids has won 3 of 5 to start off the calendar year of 2022. They've done so despite being outshot from the home plate area in 4 out of 5 of their games over that stretch, totaling 73 for and 85 against. That doesn't sound like a recipe for success. So what's been going on in these games for Grand Rapids that they have been able to pull out these dubs, Shawnee?
Well, there's a couple of reasons why this isn't exactly as it appears. There are score effects at play here. The Griffins took early leads in 4 of those 5, and when it's the third period and you have a lead, most teams will forego offense to just lock down defense and kill the clock. We've talked about in past episodes that I think this is a dumb strategy. You keep going with the strategy that got you to this point, and that should carry you to the end. But whatever, teams do it all the time. Because of that, you'll see teams who win get outshot somewhat often because they're basically not trying to play offense for most of the third period. The Griffins have also had a favorable schedule in the 3 that they've won. Milwaukee, who's gone back to being terrible mode. Iowa, who's missing their 2 best forwards, top defenseman, and starting goaltender. All of those to say that they've had 3 games they've had the talent advantage in, especially as Bergeron looks to be getting going. Dominic Sabrango has looked better. Jared McIsaac is also back, and while he hasn't been great this season, he's an improvement over a replacement level AHL defenseman. At least that's what we're hoping for. But when you have a clear talent advantage, you can lose the shot battle and still reliably prevail, although it gets riskier. The idea is basically that your shots are coming from more talented players. The other team needs more of them to compensate. So as long as you're in the neighborhood of their shot totals, you can be okay-ish. It can work, but it's very, very risky. It's much easier to just win the shot battle. The loss to Cleveland was a bit understandable because Cleveland was the better rested team as the Griffins were on their 3rd game of a 3-4. Wow, Cleveland had just played its first game following the holiday break the night before. Much fresher team. Probably explains, how you managed to lose to Cleveland, who isn't very good this year. Getting shut out by Daniel Manella is a bad look, though, and certainly helps sober up any Griffins fans that were too optimistic after winning 3-4 in 2022.
Kyle, Chris Cuolo has been a bit of a surprise this season for Grand Rapids. He's usually been a solid 200-foot middle six center and has never really been a top-line guy in terms of production. In the model, he graded as a second-line forward in 1920 and 2021. Both seasons, he was around the 73rd percentile. This season, however, he is in the 95th percentile and has a obvious first-line forward grade amongst the pool of forwards in 21-22. What in the world is behind this boost, Sean?
Well, I think this is a case of a good forward just playing the same game, but getting a little bit of a luck bump. His shooting percentage is 17.9% on the season, which is a bit high for him compared to last season, as well as his career average. Grand Rapids has also been a team that's well over 100 in rolling PDO for most of the season. So that partially explains, him cashing in on a little bit of a luck bump, a couple more going in for him. His point totals are also padded by a lot of secondary assists, which aren't a good indicator of future assists and are pretty luck driven. It's hard enough to get an assist because once you pass to a guy, it's completely up to him to put the puck in the net, even if it's wide open cage. We see guys miss those all the time, even at the AHL level. Now you're talking about passing to the guy who's passing to the guy who has to put it in. Like, that's very much a kind of white noise element to your stats profile. And that's not to say that Chris Cuolo sucks or anything. He's still a solid AHL forward who has some good offensive skill and good defensive instincts. He also has good chemistry with Barber and Hirose. He's been with Hirose and Turner Elson recently, though, as Barber has been on the taxi squad in Detroit the past few games. Still, I really think that he's kind of outkicked his coverage a little bit here. Even if you give him the benefit of the doubt of, no, he's definitely gotten better over the last year and a half. I'd be shocked to see if he finishes the season, assuming he plays, a regular complement of games and he doesn't just stop playing here. But I'd be shocked if he finishes the season in the 90th percentile in the model. I'd still expect him somewhere in the low to mid 80s. So better than previous seasons, but he's not quite in 1C territory for me.
He's the dude getting points from the dude getting points from the other dude. Okay. That's exactly what I thought of when you said that. All right, let's shift on up to Canada. Manitoba. Every night is Meese night. They are 5th in the AHL in points percentage, and yet feels very much like an under-the-radar team that doesn't get a lot of buzz around the league. They even swept last weekend, so they're starting to build some momentum here. Do you think that's because of the market size in Manitoba compared to, say, Toronto, San Diego, or Chicago? Or is it something else about this team?
In short, yes. I think that being in Manitoba and not Toronto will always play a factor, especially when you as an AHL market don't have a long established history like, say, Hershey or Chicago does. San Diego just being huge plays in their factor, more people, more media. But Manitoba isn't a small AHL market. 778,000 people live in the Winnipeg market. That's more in their market than Hershey, Colorado, Iowa, Syracuse, or Utica, as well as the newly minted Coachella Valley Firebirds. Not as big a market as Winnipeg. Yeah, it's not the Gulls or Stars or Wolves in terms of market size. Austin is huge. San Diego, huge. Chicago has its own land named after it. But it's not some tiny little town in the middle of nowhere. So I don't want, that image happening because it's not true. I do think that the team doesn't lend itself to a lot of press, though. They have no players in the top 20 in scoring in the AHL for goals, assists, or total points. No one on the roster at a point per game or even really all that close. Their leading scorer on the team, Austin Poganski, was on the Blues taxi squad last season and didn't play in the AHL. And prior AHL seasons, he was a middle six forward at best. He just got called up by the Jets, I believe, today. Leon Gawanke is 9th amongst defensemen in scoring, which is good. But 11th is Oskari Laaksonen, and I don't think anyone outside of Amerks fans and a handful of Sabres fans know who that is either. So I wouldn't expect him to have that kind of brand name recognition. Mikhail Burton is also outside the top 20 qualified goaltenders in save percentage on the AHL stats page. So despite the fact that we know who he is and are impressed by him in moments, doesn't really count for much as the average AHL fan doesn't know. Even if you're not a Moose fan, but you're an Iowa Wild fan or a Texas Stars fan, naming guys on the Moose roster is probably a challenge for you. The power play is also 14th in the league, not, cranking out numbers, but not garbage. It's 12th in goals for per game. They're 21st in average attendance. So yeah, this is not a team from the outside that screams, "Come watch me." But here's the thing. At full strength, they're a very good team, just not in a sexy, eye-catching way. They play a scoring by committee approach and roll 4 lines that can all chip in and help carry the load. But one line from that team, even at full strength, is not going to be a, all-star, eye-popping kind of line. They limit chances and tip the scales in their favor with smooth transitions, good neutral zone defense. For the most part, they play tight defense and have a lot of good 200-foot players who back check and play responsible in their zone. They're not a team that is going to make SportsCenter highlights, but it is what makes them a contender, and make no mistake about it. They are a Calder Cup contender when all the guys that are supposed to be there, no one is COVID, Jets guys aren't hurt by and large, a reasonable amount of call-ups are happening. They are a very good team. They're just one that does not play a sexy, highlight reel driven style of play, but it's effective and they win.
Sean, do you think sharing a building and a market with an NHL team has anything to do with it as well?
I mean, I definitely think that probably plays into their attendance issues. You're getting a more affordable, family-friendly price for, people who aren't CEOs and stuff like that to be able to attend games. But at the same point, like, if you wanted to go watch a hockey game in that building, you would watch the NHL club. Like, and I think that's kind of the mindset. You see a lot of teams that share buildings, or at least very closely, share buildings. I don't think too many, I think the Marlies get the hugest attendance boost when the Leafs get knocked out of the playoffs. Right. Same could be said for the Barracuda, or in this case, the Moose, or teams that are very, very close to that market. Whereas, if you're in Iowa and you want to see a professional hockey game, you can go to the Heartlanders or you can go to the Wild, and that's it. You don't have an NHL market nearby you to go, pick up and see what's going on. Same with Hershey. If you're in Hershey, you can drive 2 hours to Philly, 2-ish hours to Pittsburgh. But if you're looking for a good hockey game that's 20 minutes, half an hour down the road, it's Hershey, and that's pretty much it. And a lot of other markets are like that kind of seem to do better. So I do think sharing their building definitely hurts them a little bit. I also don't like when NHL teams do that. I'd rather them be just outside of the market. I think Anaheim and San Diego, although I've said this for years, I think they should flip. I think the AHL team should be in Anaheim and the NHL team should be in San Diego. But regardless, that distance where it's it's close, but it's still far away enough where it's you may not all be Ducks fans in San Diego if if their farm team wasn't there. Minnesota isn't that close to Iowa, but if the Iowa Wild weren't there, do you think any of the Iowans that are there are just natural Minnesota Wild fans? I doubt it. But yeah, I do think that hurts them.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at the attendance figures here, just before we go into our next segment, San Jose, they are averaging just above 1,500 per game. So that's 2 times less, and they share the SAP Center. No wonder they're trying to build that new arena in the shadow, essentially, of the SAP Center, because it's better to fill up a 5,000 seat arena than it is to have this cavernous, big empty arena that plays NHL hockey or NBA basketball or something like that. Looking at you, Cleveland. If Cleveland shows out, though, so that's a poor example there. But anyway.
I think the other thing too is Canada's had a lot of COVID outbreaks recently and have a very different governance on how many people can be in buildings and what restrictions are and stuff like that. California has been the same. So there is a little bit of that baked into those numbers that we should take with a grain of salt. So
good point. Well, as full press hockey writer that covers the Manitoba Moose, Jacob Stoller, posted an article today about some depth defensemen from the Manitoba Moose that might make their NHL debut on Thursday night tonight as we're recording. I think rather than our usual deep dive into individual players on the roster here, we should instead pivot to who is exactly left to play for the Moose in this game, as wow, the Jets organization has been beaten down by COVID-19 and COVID-19 protocols. So let's see who is left on this spare bones roster of the Manitoba Moose.
Yeah, because doing deep dives on some of the guys that on that roster is going to be challenging because just haven't seen that much of them.
Right.
But especially after the last time we talked about the Moose and their top 4 defensemen, and now none of them played in the last Moose game on Wednesday. Sandberg, Perfetti, Heinola, Chisholm, Reichel, and CJ Cease are all on the taxi squad for the Jets. Heinola is still in COVID protocol as of Thursday afternoon. So is Leon Gawanke, Stanley, Bayou, Kovacevic, and Noguer. Malat, Poganski, and Burton are also listed on the AHL transactions page as going up to the Jets. So that's, most of the Moose. The Jets also play Thursday and then are off this weekend. So there is at least a teeny bit chance that we see those guys go back to the Moose because then they can just recall them before heading to Washington on Tuesday's game. They play Thursday in Detroit, which also helps. So, we take them to Detroit with us. We leave them there. They go to Grand Rapids, and then they just meet us on Tuesday in Washington. That way, everyone gets to play. We all have fun. If the Jets don't send reinforcements, though, this game is going to be a struggle for the Moose, as they'll be mostly without the top of their roster and starting goaltender. So, Godspeed to them.
Well, with that all said, yeah, let's talk about the keys to the weekend. And I mean, it's not looking good for Manitoba, but I mean, what's it going to take for Grand Rapids to get the victory or two this weekend and the Moose have a Meese night or two, as it were?
For Grand Rapids, they need to own the neutral zone. The Moose have had the benefit of a solid top 4 D-core that can move the puck and control the neutral zone, defend rush chance as well. None of those players, though, look like they'll be in for the Moose this weekend, which we just talked about. That leaves a big fat opening for the Griffins D-core to get going. Dominic Sabrango has started to find his groove recently, and I know that Newpower and Murphy can move the puck. This is a good opportunity for them to step up, own the neutral zone, make good plays in transition, and kind of start to set the tone and change what's happened this season for Grand Rapids, where they've not been able to get defensemen to get pucks to forwards past the blue line. For Manitoba, I mean, pray the Jets send guys down. I mean, seriously. However, I would say they should probably try and keep this simple. The system that the Moose runs isn't terribly complex and definitely gets adapted and changed a little bit when their star defensemen are in the lineup. Right now, though, I keep it simple and focus on forechecking well and making clean zone exits. Grand Rapids has certainly shown that it is susceptible to forechecking pressure, and if you can get a turnover too in the offensive zone at the right time, you may be able to steal some W's this weekend.
And with that said, let us make our picks for this coming weekend for Manitoba and Grand Rapids. Again, with all these bodies out for Manitoba, either called up to the taxi squad in Winnipeg or COVID-19 protocols, or hell, maybe even making their NHL debuts this weekend, I'm going to say Grand Rapids is a no-brainer for Friday. I do think that Manitoba might get some reinforcements on Saturday, especially since, you mentioned that Winnipeg's going to be playing Detroit. So I say Manitoba will eke out a win on Saturday. So Grand Rapids Friday, Moose Saturday.
I love that I've pumped up all of the, maybe the Jets will. Yeah, I don't trust that at all. I don't. In theory, it's a good theory, but in actual practice, I'm not counting on that. I'm taking the Griffins in a sweep. I absolutely will not count on Winnipeg doing favors to the Moose here just for, their own sake. And the model won't either because, the model doesn't know how to do that. CC, do you want to read off the model here?
Yes, I will. Yeah, because you're going to see us off into the next final weekend preview here. So Grand Rapids, big surprise, 54.4% favorite in both of these games at the Van Andel Arena.
Yep. So that wraps up our preview of the Manitoba Moose and Grand Rapids Griffins. We're going to take a break here. After the break, we will get to the best coasts the San Diego Gulls, and Abbotsford Canucks. If you're just here for Manitoba and Grand Rapids, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. We will be back Tuesday morning to break down what happened in these games, so you probably want to catch that. Also, check us out on social media where we do the memes. Links to our social media as well as our YouTube channel, popular podcast places can all be found in our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills, run some ads. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Okay, it is our final weekend preview as we head on over to the Pacific Division to talk San Diego and Abbotsford. So the Gulls facing off against the Baby Nucks this weekend, Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. at the Pechanga Arena there in San Diego, California. Let's talk San Diego first. Let's talk the Gulls first. Their power play helped carry them through the early goings of this season. They were the league's top power play by raw power play percentage at Halloween and third at the end of November. But come Christmas, they were 16th in the league in raw power play percentage and are currently 18th. Quite a fall from grace. In their last 5 games, they are 3 for 19 on the power play. Sean, tell us exactly what the hell is happening in San Diego, California for these Gulls.
Wow, let's see. On the Anaheim Taxi Squad from San Diego are Greg Pattern, Buddy Robson, Vinny Lettieri, and Jacob Larson. Danny O'Regan here and Jacob Perrault have also missed time, according to my list. The Gulls have scored 18 power play goals this season with 34 power play assists for a team total of 52 power play points. Those 6 guys I just mentioned on my list have scored 21 of those 52 points. It's 40% of your power play points that haven't been in San Diego full-time for a little bit. So also of note, outside of the Charles Houdon's AHL OV season in 1920, Joël Bouchard teams haven't been great on the power play. 18-19, they were 18th in the league with a 17.9 raw power play percentage. 2021, that dominant Rocket team that we loved so much, 21st in raw power play percentage was 17.2%. Now, typically an assistant coach runs the power play, and if I had to guess based on the staff that's there, I'd say it's probably Max Talbot, as he's the former forward, and Daniel Jacob is the former defenseman, and that's usually how it shakes out. Former D coaches the D in penalty kill, former forward coaches the forward in power play. I could see it kind of flip-flopping because Talbot really never played power play in his career. He was more of a PK guy, but I'm going to go with Talbot as probably the guy that runs the power play. Max Talbot also has 0 coaching experience prior to this season. So there's that. To the actual eye test portion of it, the Gulls use the center sweep play a lot and don't make use of the double drop as a zone entry play on the power play. So puck goes down all the way to the other end. They're using the center sweep a lot to break it back in instead of using the double drop. And I'm a big proponent of the double drop, and I think the center sweep should kind of really only be mixed in for balance. Double drop's a better play. And from my viewings, the Gulls power play, they're struggling to regularly gain the offensive zone and set up. But it seems like they're having just enough success on zone entries to not think about changing up, which is actually probably the worst result. And if you're out there hearing me say double drop power play breakout and have no idea what that means, head over to YouTube and search double drop power play breakout. There are a ton of videos that clearly explain it. If you want to hear us try and give it a whack, we gave it a shot in episode 28, talking about Henderson using it and gave some video examples. So if you want to look up episode 28 from us, I don't think it went that smoothly as the video kind of froze as we were trying to do it live. But there's still, good detail in it. And I do feel like I do a good job of explaining it, even though it didn't go quite as smoothly. So if you want to watch us try to break that down and what that means, there are some resources for you there.
Sean is his harshest critic, so go check out episode number 28 because we did a wonderful job, all things considered. All right, let's talk about, let's begin with a certain skater in San Diego, Calgary native Braden Tracy. He's scored exactly 0 points in 12 games with the Gulls last season, and now he has 21 in 24 games to lead the team in scoring this year. He was left out of our season preview. That's how inconsequential he was. He was last season, at least in our eyes. First, Sean, why did we not include him? And what have you seen from him that has, turned his fortunes around on the score sheet?
I mean, I feel justified at the time for not including him. He had 2 underwhelming years in junior as an overager after he was drafted by the Ducks in the first round, and that was considered a reach draft at the time. He went scoreless in 12 games with the goals last season, like you said. I wasn't high on his skill set to begin with, and neither were a lot of other prominent hockey evaluators in the public sphere. He has hockey skill, don't get me wrong. I mean, he has a good hockey IQ. He can finish around the net. Has a strong off-puck game where he'd make well-timed moves into open space to find passing lanes for teammates to get him the puck and score. But his skating wasn't strong, and he lacked polished puck skills. But he's found a way to make that skill set work in San Diego, though. A lot of his points are him outthinking defenders, seeing where the play is going and getting ahead of the game. He's had quite a few rush points this year where he's looked off goaltenders, stared down a passing lane only to shoot, or vice versa. He's also done a good job of finding soft ice in dangerous areas. And while he's not a battler at the net front, he used his wicked smarts to swoop in when the time is right and get a tip on a puck or get a deflection, pick up a rebound. He's also a very underrated forechecker, mostly because all of the forechecking glory goes to that first forechecking guy, the F1, because that's the guy who comes flying in, who physically makes the big hit and forces the turnover, and he gets all the glory. So Tracy, though, has excelled at being the second layer of forechecking, baiting puck carriers to pass pucks into his area, only to jump in and make a play to break up the zone exit or force a turnover. It's not sexy, but it's honest work. And I'm sure a coach like Joel Bouchard, who is a very detail-oriented guy, appreciates that part of his game a whole lot and has given him a little more ice time because of it.
Jump on over to Canada once again. Let's talk Abbotsford, BC. The Abby Nucks. They've dropped 4 straight games. They've been outscored 17-6, outshot 123-93, and outshot from the home plate area 74-47. Yikes. Sean, how do the Abby Nucks stop the bleeding from these past 4 games that, has put them on quite a skid?
I'm going to take a page from an interview I heard with Ken Hitchcock a while ago. For those who don't know who that is, Ken Hitchcock is, I believe, a future Hall of Fame NHL coach. He might actually be in the Hall of Fame already, but who's been known for being a midseason replacement for a fired coach and turning the team around. In the interview, he was asked about what his secret is. What was his plan for when he comes into a new team like midseason? How does he what does he focus on to turn around? And so the easiest thing to fix when it comes to a team that's a gong show is the defense. Fixing defense is typically about fixing small bad habits that snowball into bigger problems that become goals. Getting guys to understand their place in the structure and take care of details. What is your assignment when the puck is above the dots, below the dots? What's the other team trying to do? What's their offensive scheme? What passing lane or player are you responsible for here in this moment? What are the pressure keys? I'm not a Hockey Hall of Fame coach by any stretch of the imagination. Hell, my coaching resume has all of 2 whole lines on it. So I'm not in a position to do something different other than the advice of a much smarter hockey mind than me. So I'm going to say start on defense, focus by getting details and coverages right. That's what I'd recommend for the Abbotsford Canucks right now. Yes, the offense is a mess. I understand that. But if you can get the defense sorted and get them creating controlled zone exits become controlled zone entries. Controlled zone entries become possession. Possession becomes shots. Shots become goals. And that is the path to hockey enlightenment.
Wise are you? Ken Hitchcock is a member of a Hall of Fame, a Hockey Hall of Fame, the Alberta Hockey Hall of Fame. In 2020, He was inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame in Alberta.
He's not in the big one in Toronto, though, yet.
Not yet, but I'm sure it's just a matter of time. I know.
That's actually kind of surprising. I don't know what the appropriate waiting period is, because he coached 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So maybe he has to retire. But
I think he did retire. Let's see. He retired from coaching after 22 seasons on, do we have a date here? April 13th, 2018. Maybe there is a 5-year waiting period, kind of like the NFL.
I mean, maybe, but yeah. I have to imagine he's got to be if you're a coach that's won, I think 2 cups, that's usually a free ticket into the Hall of Fame.
Right. He won one with Dallas, I believe, right?
He definitely won one with Dallas. I thought he won somewhere else.
I believe it might have been with Edmonton.
No, he wasn't that coach.
Coaching career 84 to 2019. Oh, let's see here. Let's see. Won the Stanley Cup with the Stars. Oh, that was his only cup.
That was his only cup. All right.
Oh,
that's right. They were the ones that got bridesmaid by the Avalanche. And what was it? 02? Yeah.
By the way, third winningest coach in NHL history, 849 victories. Also, Order of Hockey in Canada, 2019. Order of Hockey recipient. So
that sounds impressive. I have no idea what that means. So yeah.
I don't either, but hell, get that man in the Hall of Fame. Stat. Yeah. All right, enough about Ken Hitchcock. Let's talk about some individual skaters from the Abbotsford Canucks. Phil DiGiuseppe is back in the lineup for the Abby Nucks after some time in Vancouver on their taxi squad, although he didn't get into many games for the Canucks, the Papa Canucks, but he did get into the COVID protocol. He's out now and has been assigned to the Abbotsford Canucks. What does that mean for this team now?
A lot right now, as Abbotsford has played 2 and 3 men short last weekend against Bakersfield. So literally any healthy body is going to be a nice boost. He can also score at a pretty solid clip, and Abbotsford needs all the offense it can get right now. He's also a veteran leader on a team that's the second youngest in the AHL as of current rosters. So that's a welcomed presence as well. And while he belonged on the side of the milk carton the last time we checked in with the Abby Nucks a few weeks back, he's at least finished 2021 with 8 points in 7 games in the AHL. DiGiuseppe isn't a prolific forward, as he's more of a jack of all trades in terms of skill set, and is probably better off puck than with possession of the puck in the offensive zone, as he's more of a power forward than anything. But he's been a guy who's been better than a half point per game player in the NHL over 8 years. Also, too, is that he's pretty solid defensively and can maybe help the Abby Nucks keep San Diego from finding their power play mojo. Although the only thing I think that has worked in Abbotsford recently has been their penalty kill. So who knows how much of a boost they'll be there. But everywhere else, yeah, this is a welcomed player on this team who can put the puck in the net, provide some leadership, and if nothing else, just be another human being on skates in green.
All right. Well, with that all said, let's talk llaves, as they say in Espanol, or keys for the weekend for both of these teams.
For San Diego, I'm going to say you should get after it early. And I don't mean in the usual skate hard, blah, blah, blah way. I mean, I would take risks early to try and get a lead in the first 5 minutes. Make some stretch passes, maybe cherry pick a little bit. Take some risks to create scoring chances. Because if there's one thing that a team that's in a rut like Abbotsford is, one thing that team hates is the feeling like it's inevitable. You give up a quick goal or two and the thoughts of, oh, here we go again, come creeping right in. That's what I want to induce if I'm in the goals. I want to go for the early fold. I'd be willing to take risks early. Maybe one of them doesn't work out. I'm okay with that. But I want to try and push that inevitable feeling of here we go again in Abbotsford as early as I can. And I'm willing to take risks and early to trigger that. For Abbotsford, like we said, get back to basics. Forget the past. It doesn't matter if you win 10-0. It will not turn previous losses into wins. Focus on doing small things on defense right. Look over your shoulder for secondary threats. Get your stick in the lane. Good body position front. Focus on just making good breakouts, smooth passes. Read F1 and react. If you do those things well, like we talked about with our Yoda voice, you'll see a lot of other parts of the game just kind of fall into place. So I would focus on small things in the defensive zone and getting breakouts done. That would be what I would focus on. Just work on that, and everything else should at least go smoother.
All righty. With that all said, it is time for our picks. Last weekend series preview picks. Well, at least the ones that we do a deep dive on. We got the speed round coming up. But I'm going to say San Diego, with their robust home attendance there at Pechanga Arena, I'm going to say they sweep the weekend against the Abby Nucks. Sean?
Yeah, both teams have looked bad recently, but Abbotsford has definitely been the worst looking of the two. I'm taking a goal sweep here. The model agrees with us. San Diego is a 53.8% favorite in both games. So there's that going for the goals, which means congratulations, Abbotsford, on sweeping the weekend because all three of us are aligned against you.
7th ranked Abbotsford out of 9 teams in the Pacific Division. 8th ranked San Diego. So not as a hallmark. Not a hallmark. What am I trying to say? Like not the top of the cream of the crop.
Own network.
Not the hallmark I was talking about. Like a marquee matchup. Thank you. That's the I don't know why I couldn't find that word. Not a marquee matchup in the Pacific Division. Not the sexiness of Stockton, Ontario, Henderson.
We cover them all. We even talk about Bridgeport sometimes.
We even talk about Bridgeport sometimes. Well, with that all said, we're going to go into our last ad break. And after that, we'll get to the speed round, like I mentioned earlier. If you're just here for San Diego and Abbotsford, though, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found at our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Once again, that's TangoRomeo.echo/the Calder Farmstead. We have some outstanding bills that we need to pay. Got to pay StreamYard for hosting us, got to keep the lights on here, and do a little currency transfer over there in Canada too. So give us a moment. We'll be right back. All right, it is time to limber up a little bit, maybe get in the blocks and get ready because we are about to go into the speed round. Weekend series, Texas at Charlotte, Saturday and Sunday. I say Charlotte on Saturday, Texas on Sunday. Sean?
No Damiani for Texas this weekend. I will take a Charlotte Checkers sweep.
All righty. Chicago at Iowa, Friday and Saturday. I say Chicago listens to REO Speedwagon and keep on rolling. Shawnee, what do you say?
Alex Lyon's back, so Chicago sweep.
All right. Cleveland at Rockford, Friday and Saturday. Shawnee, what do you say?
Rockford seems to be feeling themselves recently, and Cleveland has been pretty awful. Give me the Piggies Friday and the Monsters on Saturday.
I'm going to say Cleveland ekes out a win on Friday, but then drops on Saturday. Milwaukee at Colorado, Friday and Saturday. Sean?
Milwaukee looks back to be back in suck mode, so I'm going to take the Eagles for a sweep.
Okay, Eagles 3-game win streak, but special teams are a concern for me. I'm going to say Colorado takes Friday, but Milwaukee Saturday. Henderson at Ontario, Friday in Ontario, California, Saturday in Henderson, Nevada. Sean?
I'm taking home teams here. Ontario Friday, Henderson Saturday.
I'm going to do the same. Rain on Friday, Silver Knights on Saturday. Syracuse and Utica, Friday in Utica, Saturday in Syracuse. Shawnee?
I believe in the atmosphere of the odd, which is the only reason I'm not taking a crunch sweep here. Utica Friday, Saturday. Saturday is going to the crunch.
I'm going to say Utica is going to get hot again, and I'm going to say they sweep the weekend. Lehigh Valley at Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Friday at Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Saturday at Lehigh Valley. Sean?
As long as Lehigh Valley is missing like half its team, I'm going to pick against them. Penguin sweep.
I'm going to say home cooking. They're going to stir the pot. Wilkes-Barre Scranton on Friday, Lehigh Valley on Saturday. Friday, we have Laval at Springfield. I'm going to pick Springfield. Sean, who do you have?
Springfield closer to full power, so I'm going to take T-Birds here.
Tucson at San Jose, also on Friday. Sean?
Give me the Roadrunners here. I'm feeling some Dr. Jekyll.
It was a close game between these two on Wednesday. I'm going to say San Jose gets the win this time around. Saturday, San Jose at Bakersfield. If it happens, I'm going to say Baco's game Friday. I'm going to say it was postponed because it was. So I'm going to say San Jose if this game occurs. Sean?
San Jose is more the Condor speed than their previous scheduled game, so I'm going to take Bakersfield here.
Laval at Hartford on Saturday. Shawnee, who do you got?
I have the Rocket over the Jacksonville Icemen.
I have Laval over them as well. Toronto at Hershey. Shawnee, who do you have?
Oof. Heavily depends on who plays in this one, but I'm going to go Hershey here.
Toronto carrying in a 4-game win streak. I'm going to say the Marlies keep it going on the road. Tucson at Stockton. Shawnee, who do you have?
Stockton's got too many of the horses in this equation. I'm going Heat.
You know, the Heat are kind of looking a little human these days, and Tucson, Jekyll and Hyde. I'm going to say Roadrunners. Sunday, Hershey at Wilkes-Barre Scranton. 3rd in 3 games for the Baby Pens. Sean, who do you have?
Rest advantage, Hershey. Game, Hershey.
Yep, you heard me. Wilkes-Barre Scranton, 3-3. Duh, Bears. Toronto at Lehigh Valley. Last one. Sean.
I'm taking the Marlies over the Reading Royals.
6 in a row for the Marlies. Woo! Let's do it. All right. 3 minutes and 34 seconds. That seems to be about the average going time with as many games as we cover. Woo! All right. Well, that is going to do it for episode number 75. That is it for the show. Thank you for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and several other great hockey, sports, and pro wrestling podcasts at fullpresscoverage.com. Click on the upper right-hand corner menu there. It says podcast. That's the list populating. And enjoy. And with all that said, thank you for choosing ours in the litany of podcasts out there that you could consume. We appreciate it.
If you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, comment what you thought of the episode. Hell, go crazy, click all the buttons. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found on our Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's AD_DYSFUNCTION. So we can make music for you too. CC, where can people find you?
Well, my name is CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter account at CC Hawk. Majority of my tweets are going to be hockey related, but I'm a general sports fan. I love music, love pro wrestling. So hopefully if it keeps me interested, it's not going to be bullshit for you. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at fullpresscoverage.com. Well, actually fullpresshockey.com rather. Let's get a little more specified there. Sean, where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien_81. You can find my stats work on Tableau. That's where all of the PDO things, the point shares, doohickey, the goalie whatever maps, those are all there at bit.ly/data dump and chase, all lowercase, all one word. CC, take us home.
That'll do it for the Diamond episode of the Calder Farmstead, episode number 75. For Potatoes O'Brien, I'm CC Broccoli, and thank you for tuning into the show and our continued ridiculousness from episode 75, and as we continue on. Keep your stick on the ice.